Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. So in this video, I'm going to be rendering my opinion on what it's like to actually forge with coke versus green coal. Now, for those of you that have been a part of the channel for a very long time, you know that I use bituminous coal almost exclusively, and up until recently that was the main thing I could get in my area, beyond other type of forge fuels that are commonly associated with blacksmithing that most people can have access to, like anthracite coal, standard like wood pellet, charcoal, and most people don't have access to blacksmithing coke, which I got here, and this is a metallurgical grade coke. You'll have to excuse me, I'm a little sick, I'm a little under the weather as of the recording of this video. So I might have a few sniffles here. I'm sorry if that grosses you out. You may want to go watch one of my other tutorial videos where I'm not sick. So I've been using this for a little over a month now, the blacksmithing coke, and I have found it to be an absolute dream to work in and an absolute nightmare at times to work in. And I think a lot of this comes from a learning curve because I know how to manage so well a bituminous coal fire, and I like how it cokes up and you can create caves, and I'm adjusted and I'm associated with the different necessities of working with that type and style of fire, that it's been a little bit of a learning curve to switch over to coke. So what have I learned? What I've learned is that the coke is a really nice, very clean burning fuel. Now, I've mentioned this in other videos in the past. I've seen it. This isn't a shocker. Coke burns really, really clean. It's had all the volatiles basically baked out of it, and so there's nothing but water moisture or steam that you'll see coming off of it, and basically pure heat at that point in time. The other things that I've noticed with it is, again, which again is not a shocker, is you cannot build a very effective, small, enclosed fire. Say like a cave that is associated with blacksmithing. A lot of people will talk about the cave and building this little cave and womb, if you will, for your steel to go into, that you can, end up getting it heated up and do a forge welding heat and all that. I didn't ever really do that to begin with a lot with my type of work. I just kind of break up, make sure I have enough coke surrounding my fire, around my piece, that they eats up the excess oxygen from the combustion and therefore creates a nice clean weld. So this will not do that for you. So if you're doing really small things, it can be a bit of a pain in the butt to work with coke, at least in my orientation that I have my forge. This is a green coal burning forge. I've got a hand crank blower here, which we'll talk about here in just a second. And I believe it's a Champion 400. And this works great for hand cranking everything from charcoal fires to, again, a green bituminous soft coal fire. It works wonders. It's a wonderful forge. It served me well for the last decade that I've been smithing. That being said, working with coke is going to lend itself a lot better to a side blast forge. That's where the 2-iron comes in, and it's got an inner pipe and a water-cooled jacket, and it blows into the side of the fire. That is going to work a lot more efficiently, I believe, and effectively in the amount of forging you're doing. That brings me to my next trouble that I've had with coke, is that it puts off some murderously huge clinkers. And I mean, I'm not talking an hour of forging and I have an insane clinker. I've never had a clinker like this within an hour of forging with soft coal, the bituminous coal that I was getting. The bituminous coal that I'm getting was from SOFA, or Southern Ohio Forge and Anvil, and it is Pocahontas coal. I believe it's a Pennsylvania kind of coal. It's a blacksmith coal that they mine. It's a soft coal, and don't get nowhere near the clinker that this stuff. This is almost on the level of foundry level clinker, if you will, and it's just hard and glassy and a mass, and it builds up. Now, it has been suggested to me from, I believe it's David Work with Iron or no, Nathan. I think it's Nathan. Work with Iron. He's one of the subscriber. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. I'll put one right here for you, so you can go check him out that way, in any spell corrections of his name. But he was suggesting, he's a guy from the UK, he was suggesting that I kind of pre-wash the coal or soak it in a bucket, and I kind of get a lot, it does get a lot of ash and things, and that'll kind of wash some of that away kind of prior to you using it. And then also, this, as you throw wet coal on, or wet coke on, it has a tendency to pop and send basically big chunks of coke at you. As the water heats up, the vapor in it and expands, it tends to pop and break and kind of do one of those sort of things. So with wet coke, you have to be careful and just kind of build it up around the sides of your fire first, and not just kind of bury it like you could do with maybe a green coal fire. What else did I want to say? Oh, bringing me back to the blower here. The blower itself, although I have found that you can hand crank and keep a good coke fire going, you will wear yourself out very quickly. I'm used to hand cranking, so it's not a big deal. I hand crank all the time. But if you're not used to cranking like a mad person, that won't be the thing for you. You're going to want to upgrade to an electric blower. Now, I already did a video. I'll leave a link right here and one in the description. I already did a video where I talked about converting my coal forge here into a coke forge, or in an air blast, putting an electric blower to it. I did that in order to run coke, blacksmithing coke, in this forge. So far, that little upgrade, what I did there, and it's working pretty well. Again, if you want to see the video on that, you can go check that out. It does work really well, but it is also pointing that I need to make a different forge entirely if I'm going to continue to work with coke, which I do have plans on doing, and bringing you guys along with that process, and also having some plans around the coke forge that I'll build. What else? Longevity of the fire. The fire, it burns at about the same rate as green coal, to be in all honesty. In fact, I think green coal has a little slight edge or advantage there, just from what I'm noticing with my own personal situation. The green coal has a tendency to kind of clump together and just kind of hold. It just kind of holds the heat. So with a little bit of air blast, you could get it really nice and hot, as where with the coke, you have to run the air constantly in order to keep a nice hot fire that's workable, that you can keep going in and out of. And so therefore it eats more coke than what maybe a green coal fire, where you're only hand cranking, and every time you walk away from it, the fire stops getting air, and therefore it stops its combustion cycle to a degree. That's the one of the, I guess the last little mentions, are the things that I've noticed about it. Will I continue using coke in the future? You don't realize how dirty green coal is until you have been introduced to burning a coke fire. And that same thing goes for anthracite. There's no different. I mean, there is no comparison to the two there. Anthracite burns dirty, bituminous coal burns dirty. It all burns dirty in comparison to coke, in my own personal experience, in my opinion, and the things that I've been access to. That being said, the fire maintenance on it, it requires a little separate learning curve, as with any forge fuel that you may use, or any forge you may use. You need to educate yourself about it before you choose to make a switch, or this or that. One of the other things I like to say is this might be a great option for somebody who wants to burn a fossil fuel like a coke, do coke or coal, but maybe you live in town and it's not a possibility to have a bunch of sulfurous smoke, pluming out your chimney and fogging up the whole neighborhood on a nice summer day when people were planning on grilling out, and now they smell rotten eggs, right? That's not a friendly neighbor. It's not a great way of doing it, and I wouldn't suggest it. However, doing coke, you have to start it up with some sort of wood base or something, charcoal. Get it started with a torch. It takes a lot of heat to get one going, but once it gets going, or you start it with charcoal, it is a lovely thing as far as no smoke. Once it's all heat, it's all heat. You won't notice any vapors or anything else like that. It all gets consumed. So this may work very well if you want to take and do a fossil fuel type forge here, or do a forge instead of doing a gas forge as an option in a situation where you might be in a little more urban environment. This might be a lot more handy to you. You could start up what looks like a barbecue grill, throw on some coke, and there you go. You're away you go, and you're into forging. Now I will prefix that and go ahead and state that you need to check with your local codes, rules, regulations, environmental restrictions, things like that, all before you get started, because where you may get started into it thinking it's all great and fine, nothing's worse than doing it for a while, your neighbors get annoyed, and then the county comes in and shuts you down just when you were starting to get the hang of this whole thing, blacksmithing, or even worse if you're running a business. That's just crippling when the county does something like that. Yes, it has happened. Yes, I've heard stories from people where it has happened to them, and it's never a good thing, and it's really detrimental. So, without further ado, I'm probably going to get back to smithing. As you can see in the opening credits, it does get very hot. It does work really well. I'm really enjoying using it. I'm probably going to continue to use it for another month or two, and just kind of see if I can adjust my workflow to it, and then build a coke forge around it, and then see how I like it there. So far, so good. It puts out a lot of intense heat. You don't have the smoke. I don't have the smoke where it can downdraft and waft off in the shop. It's literally, it just takes those fumes right out. This extraction hood's just plenty enough, and it takes it right on out. And yeah, I have nothing but nice things to say about it, other than the pre-mentioned things like killer clinker, stuff like that. If you are someone who has extensive knowledge with working in predominantly coke forges, feel free to drop me some hints and tips, or even make a video. Make a video about it, and again, if you are knowledgeable in this subject, make a video about it, and drop a link in the description. Drop a link down in the comment section down below. I'd like to go check it out and see what type of helpful advice you may have on that. So, without further ado, God bless you all. I'm going to get out of here, get back to forging. I hope you all have a wonderful day and a blessed holiday season. God bless you all. We'll talk to you later.